So Colette always pulls out a pithy statement for her shorts, video shorts. So I was thinking I should just make the pithy statement to save the editing. What do you think, Colette? Just start out with the pithy one and then you can carve it out very easily. So
Sounds good. Or I'll just find it.
you'll find it. Yeah, you can splice together the phrases into something coherent. So what's up today?
I have a question. The sense of self, center, location, all these words that you use, is my voice okay? Yeah. And I don't know, you and other people, you sometimes say it's just you get tired of it and at that point it drops, or it's very easy to access it, just explore it right now and see if there's a me, there's a thinker. And like the paradox that the me is trying to get rid of itself, so the more it tries, it creates more of itself. All of that. Yeah, I was just wondering, what's the way? Because it doesn't feel useful or clean or effective. So yeah, I mean, the
What's the way?
existence.
What's the way to what?
What's the way to not be located in a center?
Well, look, it's not, there's not a place other than where you are,
Mhm.
right? Or we could say the place other than where you are is imaginary, non-substantial. So if you're in your center, then what is that? So I'm in my center. I notice that my center is a thought stream, mind stream. It's a fearful, neurotic, survivalistic, subject object, gathering resources, doling them out transactionally in an attempt to survive. And I even have qualities called love in there, which I give to those who please me. And then, or I'm like deeply compassionate, I even give that to those who don't please me, but that really then pleases me. So it's still trying to get to that place where I feel pleased and happy. So this is the center. It goes on and on and on and on. And I go, okay, how do I get away from that? But I would say to you, you're already away from that because you are aware of that. So go to the space which is aware of that mind stream. That's not hard, right? You're already aware. Everybody is already aware of the thing they describe, the thing they see. So now go to that awareness. And now, in that awareness, notice that it's completely empty. Now you're in emptiness, right? In that emptiness, an object arises called me, thought, the center. I attach to that. Now I have a world. Before that, I had emptiness. What is aware of that? What is aware of awareness? Okay, now you're in big mind. Now everything, awareness, thought, center, emptiness, it's all part of the big mind. That's pretty cool. And look, we got there in like under 3 minutes without doing a lot of practice. And now collapse the big mind into the one thing. Whatever the one thing is, there's only one thing. Now you're in the tantric reality of non-dualism. And look at where we are now. We're where we started. We're at the center. So, Sepehr, there's no place to get to. Isn't that relaxing? And since there's no place to get to, then we have only curiosity about where we are. It's all we have to work with. We have the unknown. So what's the question then in that?
Um, well, first, I'm not sure how much I'm there in that exploration with you, but if I'm there, then the question that I have now at this point is then how to move. Okay, there's one thing and I'm in it, and there's just the curiosity of the unknown.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, my usual question. How do I find movement? How do I find alignment? How do I?
Well, try not to move. I mean, try to try not to move. Try to not move. That would be sitting still. That would be called meditation, right? Because you're sitting still doing nothing. Now you're in deep meditation. There's only one thing happening. You can call it the center. You can call it big mind. You can give it any name you want. There's only one thing happening, and you're sitting still doing nothing. Now you're like a meditation master. How long will you sit? So you don't have to do anything. Movement happens. But now your question is, how do I decide which movement? Right? Do I go left or right? So here's again the practice. Like when you come to the fork in the road, take it. That's a Yogi Berra quote, by the way. Right? In other words, you don't have to decide. You simply are on one or the other. Or if you think you have to decide, then now you're at the point of decision. Do nothing. Now you're a meditation master. And see how long that lasts. You want to try that for a day? There's going to be a lot of honking if you try to drive a car, I can tell you that. I mean, is deciding really an issue? It seems like it's happening automatically to me. You don't look convinced. Okay, there's the center. We're aware of the center, right? The awareness of the center is something that we know. That is the big mind. Big mind collapses into one thing, and the one thing changes constantly. It's not a thing, it's energy. Energy is dynamic. You're an expression of that energy. You don't have to decide because the energy is actually making that decision on your behalf because there's no you. So there's just the movement of energy.
Well, in this moment, Orja calls me on my phone, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the middle of this. I can't take that call. But what if she's trying to get on the call and she has questions? And so, like, that's decision making.
Yeah.
Like, I can, I hung up, so I can ignore that and say, no, I'm in this call, this group in this call. I don't want to interrupt. Or I can, I don't know. Like, should I go read the message? Like, it's decision making. I don't feel it's a natural movement. And in that hesitation, you can tell me like, okay, stay still. That means, okay, sit here and do nothing, which means I'm ignoring Urja. So
Mhm.
it's a decision. Like stillness is also a decision.
Mhm.
Um, in this case, at least, not all
Yeah, but
cases.
look at how many decisions have happened in just in like the last 30 seconds in just your life. Do you think you can keep up with the decision making? I know I can't. I can't figure out if
But
my
but
heart's beating or not.
but
I can't figure out if I'm breathing or not.
I know, but practically that question, like,
Should I
um,
breathe?
pardon
Should I
me?
should I inhale?
No, I agree. There are a lot of decisions that's not up to me. But like, for example, in this moment, there was a decision of ignoring her or not. There was a decision like, okay, do I bring it up to the group? Like just as an example,
Mhm.
that decision. And then again, now that I've shared it with the group, the decision, okay, now what? Do I go back
Yeah.
to Urja or not? Like,
Mhm.
um,
And look at how many of those decisions just happened. So
they
what's the issue?
they didn't happen. Like, I'm still anxiously thinking, what should I do now?
So you decided to be anxious?
Um, no, that was that was not at least a conscious
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. So that like again, drill down, you'll find there's nothing there to be making the decision. So you call it anxiety, I would call it energy.
I'm still not satisfied that, okay, even if I call it energy, there is energy slash anxiety that in this moment I have to do something about this phone call that I just rejected.
Mhm.
And so now what? I'm noticing the energy, but there's no direction
Oh, I
coming
think you
out
have
of
to
it.
I think you have to call her back on the screen here. We got to find out now. Find out
Yeah,
what.
but see, like you're offering a creative solution here, and perhaps I needed permission from the group because I didn't want to be disrespectful to the group to do something about it. So that's partially like I gave away the responsibility and fear of it. Like, hey, you guys help me. I don't want to deal with this, and now you're doing it for me. So that
Mhm.
was again another decision. Like,
No,
don't
no,
decide alone. You're gonna mess it up. Share it
no,
with the group.
I
Let them handle it.
wasn't trying to help you. I was feeling anxious for Orja.
What
You
was
know,
that?
I wasn't trying to help you. I
You
was having my own anxiety about
okay?
Orja. It's probably like, Sepehr, call me an ambulance. And
I
you're
don't
like,
know. Like, let
I
me
can't,
see. I mean, she
can't
texted
interrupt.
me, and I'm not a multitasker. That's the challenge. So she texted me. I didn't see the
Okay,
text, and
well,
then she called me.
we'll wait and watch. We're curious.
Okay.
Yeah, we got nothing else going on here.
Okay. Yeah. She just called me for the dinner tonight, I guess.
Yeah,
She said just recovering from shingles. Well, that's bad. Could you pick me up for dinner tonight?
okay.
So maybe she doesn't remember about this phone call. Um, I'll text her back, I guess, or I don't know. I can call her again. moment by moment fearful decision making.
Yeah, it's terrible. You know, we're all suffering from this.
And then later, do I go to pick her up for dinner because, oh, I'm not attending the dinner tonight. If I can come, I'll come late for the dialogue. Anyways, I guess someone else will need to do that.
Okay, so Sepehr, you've constructed a persona that's burdened by decision making, even though you've just made probably 20 decisions while we watched in awe of your amazing decision making.
Um, mm, I don't know how you call it amazing decision making. I was indecisive. I tried to delegate my decision making to you guys, and
No, you were very decisive about your persona.
um,
Always very decisive about your persona.
yeah, about the fact that I can't decide. Yes, I'm decisive.
Yeah, so you were very clear about that. You never forget, you know, to remember that you're indecisive and that that's your basic question. Imagine if you forgot that, you would just be making decisions and not realizing that you're indecisive,
Um,
right? Can you see that construction of I'm indecisive and I have to worry about whether I'm making decisions is actually just a story on top of what is basically an energetic movement?
so without that story, Urja would have called me right now, and I just can't imagine any other way. Like she would have called me, so I'm in this moment in the middle of the call, and I've asked a question from you, so you're addressing me. So in the middle of that, do I respond or not respond? I mean, in that moment, I'd reject it, but
Okay,
I don't
you
know.
go around in circles for a while. We can't really help you. But the thing is, you need help, okay? There's there's the center, which is Sepehr, the indecisive one. There's the awareness of that. What's aware of the indecisive one is the awareness, right? What's aware of the awareness? Now, in that big mind, are you decisive or indecisive? Do you even exist?
I wish I didn't, but it does feel like there's this individual who has to take the call or not take the call. It does feel that way.
Yeah, what's aware? What is aware of that? Okay, we'll start again. Anyway, I'm aware that I'm getting bored. Um, and then I'm saying, okay, what's aware of that? All right, we'll let you off. Anything else?
I would like to help.
Yes, we all do. He elicits that. He's a professional at that.
No, me too. Me too.
Okay, you know.
It was very interesting for me to watch you, Sepehr. Like it was a little bit like watching myself, because I see myself also as a very indecisive person, or struggling with what to do and do this or not do that, and so on and so on. And I was watching you, and I was thinking, or maybe what if that is absolutely okay? It is just what is happening. And what if there would be no suffering about it? That went through my mind when I observed this. Um, yeah. So yesterday I had for my story. What happened was I'm a software developer and I developed the software. And it was a good software until I encountered a person from Switzerland. And he said, what you did is not secure. It is open to attackers. And I immediately recognized he is right. And I immediately recognized I had no solution. And it kind of destroyed my whole day. And I was doubting, I was fearful, I was afraid. It challenged everything. Just a simple phone call. So this is, and I realized that is what is happening for me all the time. That is simple, something that is not secure, something that is not in control, is kind of challenging my whole life, I would say. Yeah. So and I wish I had more distance to that. Yeah. But I don't have any distance to it.
Now, what was the body sensation when your whole life was challenged?
Oh, damn it. What was the body sensation?
Yeah.
Well, the immediate is a shock. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
and because I immediately, I mean, I was before that, before I talked to that guy, I was like a child. I was so enjoying it, also talking to him and showing him what I had produced. Look, I did it this way and this way. And then he said, no, you cannot do it that way. Yeah. I mean, he was really serious and it was a threat. He was threatening. Yeah. And the first reaction was, it was kind of a collapse. It was yeah, like a shock. And so I think all the energy went into the head, I would say. If you say body sensation, there was no body. It was just
Yeah.
contraction.
Yeah. So, and the reason I'm asking that is because, I just had a completely imaginary world that is a world of a relationship to another human being, which is imaginary, right? Which was very much like your software, seemed really nice. Like I could almost feel happiness in that imaginary world. And then that imaginary world was punctured. And the the recognition of that shift felt like exactly what you just described. Like the world had come to an end. The body sensation was like an electric current through every cell. And with that came the big space. Because what actually occurred was an imaginary world that disappeared. Actually, nothing was lost, something was deepened. So, did something deepen when your imaginary world collapsed?
I could not say that, not yesterday. There was, so this twist you just took, yeah, and you felt the space opening. I would say no, I felt the space contracting. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get to that?
I felt the collapse fully. Like in every cell of my being, every part of my world instantly fell apart. All of reality collapsed into a black hole of nothingness. You know, as we just saw, nothingness is the space of awareness, actually. And being aware of nothingness, that is what I just described as the big mind. That's a beautiful space. You're in the big mind, man. You just got an invite into the big mind and you're going, oh, poor me.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's aware of poor me? What's the nature of that awareness? What is aware of that emptiness, the nature of that awareness? So we're always getting invited into the big mind, the field of consciousness. Because, you know, the imaginary worlds are constantly collapsing. I mean, it's particularly dramatic when we've sort of built reality upon reality, you know, like, the software, it's so beautiful and I'm going to become prosperous and maybe famous and like notable. And I'm, you know, this is like going, you love me. And because you love me, I'm so happy and we'll like, live together in the white picket fence and, you know, raise sheep and whatever, you know, whatever goes along with that storyline, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you find out it's not secure.
Yeah.
Find out software is not secure, the relationship's not secure, your survival's not secure, your decision making's not secure. There is no security. That's an invite. And when your entire being is in flame with that invite, which is, to me, noticing the absolute shift from an imaginary world to a world in which there's no imagination, that's a big invite. Take it. What a gift. I mean, look, you just got rescued from being a successful software developer. Look at those guys that are like, do you want to be those guys that are successful software developers?
No.
Yeah, that is like a hell world.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're completely right. Because for me, software is security. Yeah? And it's just a symbol. It's a symbol for a. Yeah. So what really is absolutely contrary to my conditioning is this: take the invite. Yeah. So this is not something that it simply does not occur to me, this sentence. Yeah. Oh, this is an invitation. Yeah, because the whole body speaks another language. It speaks death threat. Yeah, and death threat is not an invite. Yeah.
Yeah, but that a death threat, that is the invite.
Yeah.
That is like that is so tangible.
Yeah.
The shock.
Yeah.
And we've all had that experience, you know, a loved one dies,
Yeah.
a business fails, you know, we reach for our wallet and it's stolen,
Oh,
you know, like the flat tire on the busy highway, or, you know, we all encountering this all the time. And the body goes into this space of 1000% alert. It sees death as imminent.
Yeah.
Right? And that death is actually from the imagination, of the imagination. Actual death is a quiet occurrence. It doesn't have that, you know, inflamed quality to it. That's the imaginary world. And isn't it cool to be relieved of an imaginary world? I mean, if we're interested in the truth. And it's also notable, Boris, that your concern about fame, glory, and finances it's quite different than the guy who, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago was pretty sure he was going to die. Right? Like, who cares? Who cares about whether you're successful with your software if you're going to keel over? So it's great that you actually believe you're going to live long enough to be concerned about whether you have money or not.
It is so funny. Yeah? As soon as the survival is a little bit secured, then comes the fame. Yeah, and then comes the vanity and search for success. It's very interesting. But as soon as really the death comes back, there's no concern for vanity anymore. And so it's really interesting. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. So yeah, so it's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. You can always work in a coffee shop, you know.
And you're welcome in Florida to help run a restaurant.
Me?
Yeah, if you want to experience real death, go work with Linda in her shop. Yeah.
No, that was so, I don't know what to say, but listening to you guys and thinking about my situation. And I do die to it often, and then I come back, to it. But when y'all were talking, I thought, what the hell does it matter? I've worked it out so I can live here on my Social Security, and I've got 2 extra rooms if anybody's worried about it, about how you're going to live. We can collaborate.
Yeah, we can collaborate. I work in education with children, young children, and there's collaboration there and there's non-collaboration, a lot of it. And we spend all the time drilling down that there are choices and there are consequences. And someone will say, make the right choice, Johnny. Good choice, Johnny. That's a green choice, Johnny. There's all this conditioning going on, and that's what I'm hearing. And I understand that I'm not above that. I haven't transcended it, because I could go to Florida, I could go to Florida and have this really good relationship with Linda, or not. Not have a good relationship, or not go to Florida. There's all this for me, is there a marriage? I think you call it the imaginal. I'm looking for the language here. The imaginal and the what is, heaven and earth. Is there a marriage? Does the prince kiss the queen? Who am I? My main question these days is, well, it's really dawned on me through a lot of collapsing and crashing and depression and laughter and sobbing that love is not a feeling. It's just some sort of attitude or some sort of intention. So the question keeps arising, well, what are the opportunities and where are the limitations? I've no question here, but discernment seems to be something maybe I'm like Sepehr, I'm not too convinced I'm good at it, and I'm not too convinced anyone is really, certainly not the collective. I'm wondering, who is willing to get down move in with Linda or whatever, or be here and just be in that tension and observe it. I have no question. My question is, where is that place? It's yeah.
The place is in the field of your own mind. There's no Linda, there's no Florida, right? So you're looking at yourself, you're looking at your own mind. So what do you want to do with that mind? You can do nothing, and you'll notice that it doesn't have any thingness. Or you can compound it through additional thought and imagination from the mind, and you can build a world. But as Boris just indicated, and as I just indicated, that world will collapse. That will be like a death. You'll have the opportunity, which you probably won't take, to see the nature of reality before you fill it back in, usually with woe is me. She left me, my software doesn't work, I'm going to be broke. Like there isn't even a moment, a gap for a moment between the realization that my world has just collapsed and my new world is being built. Well, that's every moment, actually. Every moment my world collapses and I rebuild it. So what to do? There's an invite. There's an invite every moment to the space that is not thought. And in that space that's not thought, there's an invite to emptiness. And in that emptiness, there's an invite to totality. And in totality, there's an invite to the singularity, which is where we already are. And whatever you do, don't go to Florida, because Linda's waiting for you there. And whatever you think is true, she will shatter it, guaranteed. Yes.
But I do like to work with kids. So we could put together something.
Yeah, Philip, so what would be an alternative to convey to a child besides good decision? Like, is there, from your current understanding, how would you speak to a child about the behavior that they just manifest? Johnny, you are totality. Can you tone it down? Totality, stop hitting your sister or whatever it is. So how would you speak to a child that is actually not conditioning them to end up with the idea they have to make the right decision? Like if you put Sepehr in a time machine back to where you were working with him, and he's learning how to make decisions, how would you form an adult who didn't have a question about the decisions that they appeared to be making?
Well, I was just wondering, I mean, I suppose it depends on the age of the child, but would a young child even question or think about their decisions? And even if an adult, said, "Oh, good decision," or whatever, I don't know. how much does that influence a child? So
Well, good decision suggests first that I'm making a decision, and second that there's an alternative which would have been bad. And so now, as a child, I'm trying to learn, how do I get that adult to feed me, basically, and not, leave me out in the cold to die. So how to please the adult, so, sufficiently to survive. So I'm learning now what a good decision and a bad decision is. That's based on what? The conditioning of the adult. What's that based on? The conditioning of their school, their parent, back into time, right? So this is where we end up with this idea that we have to make the right decision. And if you're indecisive, you feel the potential punishment of making the wrong decision, as back to Boris's point, like imminent death, the collapse of your world. Because as a child, that's really what it comes down to. The godlike parent or the godlike teacher disapproves, or yells at you, or even hits you for making the wrong decision, which, as you noted, a child doesn't even know where that decision came from. So how do we unwind that as teachers or parents? How do we unwind it as adults?
Or being able to talk openly in a place where we can begin to notice the built environment that we are doing a demolition derby through, stock car racing, and noticing when the child takes the steering wheel, or noticing when you are on a plastic steering wheel. Just beginning to notice all these things and being able to talk together about who has the steering wheel, or who thinks they has the steering wheel, or where we think this car is going. Or we have this illusion we're all going the same way just because we're at the same traffic lights. To begin to open that up. That I don't know if there's a how, but there's certainly a. Are we in the same car? Is this a car? Is it what this built environment? What is this? Just beginning to be honest about it. It seems to be good enough.
Yeah, I think with little children, I always keep falling into the same trap. Like, oh, you have done that well. Oh, you did that good. Yeah. It's
Mm.
almost, I mean, if the child presents something, I did this, or I look at this Lego, I built this castle, this whatever, I'm amazed. I say, wow, yeah, you did it great. But of course, I mean, this could be already conditioning.
Mm.
But I have to say something. If I don't say anything, it's no, yeah.
Mm.
Aren't we all little children? Right now?
So I would question, I've heard that, giving a child kudos, and perhaps this goes for everyone, um, is actually like getting a reward for doing something like building the castle or whatever it is. Impressive task or something that's actually kind of not that useful, and that the what's the word? The actual reward would be in being able to get in there and actually engaging in that task. Um, the enjoyment that comes from actually doing the task itself, so that it's not like, okay, look what I did. And I hear that from my grandson, the same kind of thing, but um,
Mm.
he does the same stuff with his like, he calls them Legos, these toys that he can build the most awesome things out of. So
Mm. Good job, Karen. Good job. That was really a good job there. That was really great. Awesome. Awesome job. So you see, I mean, you can feel what that does, right? Like you're instantly evaluated,
yeah.
right? And actually, what is just a natural expression becomes good or bad, better or worse.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, what you're pointing to with a child who's, involved in something, and even if it's industrious, something that's coming from curiosity or imagination or, learning new ways of putting things together, that it's inherently pleasurable. It's inherently um, creative. Doesn't require like the gold star, other than if we want to direct how their creativity actually goes, which is to say, make it industry based, form them into good workers for the future, right? Not too dreamy, not too imaginary, not too unique. So I think this is the challenge, is like, how do you engage? But it seems like to me, I would engage you, Karen, with a deep listening and a response from my curiosity or my interest or what it is that I find compelling about what it is you said or did, right? So, you know, the Lego construction might be, oh, let me see what I can build. Or I wonder where that came from. Is that a magical realm that you're representing? Or how did you find that design? you know? So like engaging the child. But then it gets a little trickier when the kid picks up the Lego construction and throws it at the brother, right? This is when we get into the, that's not good. Yeah. So what do we do with that one? Just, smack the kid and say, don't do that.
Oh, brilliantly. You hit him in his left eye. Next time, try the right one. Good.
And then for me, like watching my grandson, there's the dilemma of media, like, TV, plopping them in front of their. So instead of any kind of interaction, even like saying that was good or that was bad or whatever, there the interaction is like entertainment or something, and yeah, hours of that. So
Do you do that with him? Just don't do it.
my son and I share a place. So it becomes like there's some conflict with that. Grandma's the bad guy, So
So do you put
it's
up with
that.
that with him?
Well, yeah, I guess sometimes. I mean, he is the father, so which he insists, but
With you?
yeah,
Yeah. Come on,
it was a
Grandma.
mistake. It was a mistake to buy the TV in the first place, and I might throw it out the door.
Do it. Do it.
There's a woman, Julia. I believe she's Russian, and she comes sometimes to the Thursday group. Is it deep listening? No, it's the other one. And she was telling us, I'm not sure where she is, but she takes care of or teaches young children who are in Ukraine, like right now. And she talks about like sometimes they'll show up and there'll be a loud noise and then they're gone. Sometimes they say, I can't make it today. There's drones flying above, or I can't make it today. There's an air raid. And the thing she said about it was how completely matter of fact they are about it. They're not wailing and screaming. They're just basically giving you their excuse for why they can't show up for school. And because somebody else is an adult is theoretically throwing the Lego castle at other adults. And I just brought it up because we're talking about decision making and choice and who's in charge. And there was something else I wanted to say about it, but I don't remember. But when she said that, I just thought, doesn't that take away any sense of personal self and what's happening with me and what's the right or wrong thing to do? I guess the other thing I was going to say was she said they can't really teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic the 3 hours. It's just not possible. It's just a very improvisational process of being there with them. Anyway, I didn't mean to be a buzzkill, but it just occurred to me with all this talk about kids and decision making and right and wrong.
it just keeps occurring to me, we are those kids. Right here, we're together. Not particularly the ones you said, Colette, but all the kids we're talking about. They teach us so much. We have so much to teach each other or to be with each other. It's pretty neat.
But it's easy to romanticize or idealize because it's a war zone. There's so much tension in the classrooms now. The social is not really strong. Individuals are very much interrupting very strongly any social. It's creating havoc everywhere. Very, very, very tense. And you know how to meet that tension or seeing the tension, beginning to address the tension, because they're not addressing it in the system, they're not addressing it in the classrooms, they're not addressing it in amongst colleagues. It's just more constructs, more Lego castles, more, you know, where can we meet this tension between the whole and the parts, and they in such a holistic way, in a way that it doesn't negate my agency, or a sense of belonging or autonomy. It somehow all comes together. And I think, you know, I'm plagued with the sense that I've got to make that happen. And I don't think that's what we're saying here. I can't make that happen. I've done everything I can to make that happen. And even last week, I ended up doing something bad. You know, I collapsed because there's some pupils were so disrespectful. It was, that's a reality. These are children. And I am faced with a very immature person in myself.
Mm.
I'd like to grow up.
Why? Why do you want to grow up?
For all the reasons I just said.
Mhm.
I don't think that negates being a child.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It seems to me to return to that. Oh, I think there's a scripture about that. You only get to heaven if you become a child again. Whatever that means.
but an adult said it, not a child. It also says milk for the babes and meat for the adults.
Yeah, their sayings are crazy.
There are just lots of sayings.
Okay, when we start quoting the Bible, you know that time is up. So thank you, everybody.